About to proceed. Inshallah, today we will go over two chapters, Bab Dukhul Mecca and Bab Sifat al-Hajj. Bab Dukhul Mecca, the chapter on entering Mecca, and the chapter on the description of Hajj. And this is based on al-Umdah by Ibn Qudamah, rahimahullah ta'ala, who died in the year 620 after Hijrah. It's a Hanbali manual. But we will cover, when it comes to the major points, we will cover the positions of the other mazahib as well, inshallah. This is basically the whole story of Hajj as summarized here. And what we will do is that we will try to do ihkam and tafsil, which is to perfect and to set clear and then to detail and expound. So comprehensive, and then detailed, comprehensive detailed. And we will be doing this often so that we can understand the basics, and then when we elaborate on the basics, we will not get confused and get lost. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this in the Quran. Alif Lam Ra, Kitabun Uhkimat Ayatuhu, ثم فصلت من لدن حكيم خبير. In the beginning of Surah Hud, Allah said, Alif Lam Ra, a book whose verses have been set clear, perfected, set clear, made definitive and decisive, with no ambiguity, that is comprehensive and concise. And then ثم فصلت, then they have been detailed, expounded on, elaborated on. من لدن حكيم خبير, from one who is Hakim, all-wise, Khabir, all-acquainted or all-aware. So the summary of the story is that you will go to Mecca and you will finish your Umrah if you're doing Tamattu', if you're doing Hajj Ifrad, which is Hajj only. Ifrad means only, or to single out Hajj. If you're doing Hajj Ifrad, then you don't worry about the Umrah before. When you come to Mecca, you will do Tawaf al-Qudum, that is the Tawaf of arrival in Mecca. Then you will wait. If you're doing Qiran or doing Ifrad, you will wait in your Ihram that you came into Mecca with. But if you're doing Tamattu', which is Umrah, then Hajj, separated by a period of Tahallul, being able to just wear your regular garments and stuff and put on perfume. Then you will finish your Umrah and then wait until the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, which is Yawm al-Tarwiyah, which is the day of watering. Tarwiyah is watering or storing water, because they used to store water for the journey, because Mina and Arafat did not have water. Nowadays, alhamdulillah, Mina and Arafat, they do have running water. So they called it Yawm al-Tarwiyah, the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, because of this. And then you set out from Mecca to Mina. This is number one here. It says number one, you are leaving Mecca. We're not talking about Umrah. Umrah is done, and you're now waiting in Mecca, and you're waiting in Mecca in your regular clothes and stuff. On the 8th day of Dhul Hijjah, you make Ihram to make Hajj from Mecca, and you put on your Ihram garments, and now you are in a state of Ihram. Once you have made the intention, you put on your Ihram garment, you go to al-Kaaba, preferably from underneath the rain spout, but you don't have to do this. But anyway, anywhere from Mecca, you put on your Ihram, and you make the intention that you will embark on Hajj now. This is when? The 8th day of the Hajj. For people who will fast because they don't have money to slaughter, it is preferable for them to start their Ihram from the 7th day of the Hajj, so that they can fast the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And that would be the 3 days in Hajj that they will fast, and then they will fast 7 when they return home. If you're not one of those people, and most of you will be able to offer a sacrifice, then don't worry about it. You start your ihram on the 8th day of the Hajj from Mecca, and then you proceed from Mecca to Mina. You proceed from Mecca to Mina. In Mina, you stay for 5 prayers. You arrive in Mina before Dhuhr, and then you will pray Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha of the 8th day of the Hajj, and Fajr of the 9th in Mina. You will pray those prayers, not combined, separately. You can combine thereafter. But on this particular day, you will pray the prayers not combined separately, but you will pray them qasr. So you will pray 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, and you will not combine them. So 2 for Dhuhr, 2 for Asr, 3 for Maghrib, 2 for Isha, 2 for Fajr, but not combined in Mina. Now, the 8th day of the Hajj is done. You prayed the Fajr of the 9th day of the Hajj in Mina, and before Dhuhr, you proceed to Arafah. Before Dhuhr, you proceed to Arafah. You arrive there in Arafah, that is on the 9th day. You arrive in Arafah. It is preferable, so you see, you're taking this route to Arafah. And basically, this is the exact map. Let me show you. Okay, it's not showing well. But this is the Kaaba. This is the exact map here. This is the Kaaba here. This is Mecca and Masjid al-Haram. This is Mina. These are the 3 Jamarat that you will be stoning. These are the 3 Jamarat that you will be stoning. This is Muzdalifah. This is al-Mash'ar al-Haram, which is part of al-Muzdalifah, the sacred side, which is part of Muzdalifah. And unfortunately, the border of Muzdalifah is not clear. Is it clear? Here is the border. Huh? Yeah, this is the border. Yes, it's of Muzdalifah. So you are coming from Masjid al-Haram. You're going to Mina. You're going to stay in Mina on the 8th. Proceed on the 9th to Arafah. When you proceed on the 9th to Arafah, you're not going to take that route because there are 2 routes to Arafah. There is one where Muzdalifah will be to your right-hand side, and there is another route here where Mina will be to your left-hand side on your way to Arafah. This is the one that you're taking to Arafah. And all of this is to perfect your Hajj to be just like the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. We're not talking about obligations or pillars or conditions or anything of that nature. Next week, inshallah, the talk will be about what you will do after you remove your ihram, and maybe next week or the following week we will talk about the pillars and obligations, and to sort things out, and to sort out the obligations from preferable acts and so on. But for today, this is the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the perfect Hajj. This is the description of the perfect Hajj. So you're going from Mina to Arafah before Dhuhr on the 9th day of Dhul Hajj, and you're taking this route to Arafah. It's called Dab, and Muzdalifah will be to your left-hand side, and you will arrive here in Wadi Urana. This is the valley of Urana. You'll arrive here. This is Masjid Namira, where they usually give the khutbah on the day of Arafah. This is still outside of the Arafah precinct. The Arafah precinct is here. Wadi Urana is right at the border, at the boundary or the border of the Arafah precinct. You are staying there for a little bit of time until you pray with the Imam Dhuhr and Asr. You listen to the khutbah of the Imam and you pray with the Imam Dhuhr and Asr, and they are combined in this case. They are qasr and they are combined in this case. And then you will proceed to the precinct of Arafah. The precinct of Arafah is not limited to Jabal al-Rahmah. It is not limited to the Mount of Rahmah. It is the entire precinct of Arafah. The Prophet said, وَقَفْتُ هُنَا وَعَرَفَةُ كُلُّهَا مَوْقِفٌ. I stood here, and he stood here, exactly where the pointer is. Do you see this? Yes. He stood here. I stood here, and all of Arafah is a standing station. All of Arafah is a standing station. But when the Prophet ﷺ stood, he stood here, and he made Habl al-Musha, which is basically the route of the pedestrians. This is the route of the pedestrians in front of him, and he made al-Qibla in front of him. So he stood here, and he was facing Mecca. He was facing Mecca. And he stood on top of, he actually was riding on top of his she-camel al-Qaswa, she was facing as-Sakharat, the rocks of the mountain here, and he was facing Mecca, and the pedestrians were walking in front of him here. So this is where the Prophet ﷺ stands. And then you stand in Arafah all the way until when? Okay, let's go back to this key. So you're standing in Arafah all the way until the sunset of the 9th day of the Hajj. After the sun sets, after the sun sets, not before, after the sun sets, you proceed to al-Muzdalifah, and you're taking a different route in al-Muzdalifah. The Prophet ﷺ used to do this even when he went to Eid. He would take one route into, one route to the masjid and a different route back home, so that the earth would witness on your behalf on the Day of Judgment, testify on your behalf on the Day of Judgment. And then you get to meet more people, and you get to sort of say salam to more people and different people, and so on and so on. Different benefits from this. So you're going back to Muzdalifah from a different route. It's called al-Ma'zimain, because there are the al-Ma'zimain, 2 mountains here on this side. So you're taking this route to Muzdalifah after the sun sets. You arrive in al-Muzdalifah on the 9th of the Hajj, and that is after, in the evening, late in the evening. Once you have arrived, before you unpack or do anything, you pray Maghrib and Isha in Muzdalifah. Once you arrive into Muzdalifah, you pray Maghrib and Isha. They are combined. They are combined. And all of this is a matter of agreement. So they are combined. You pray Maghrib and Isha combined, and then you go to sleep. You could make some dhikr and so on and so forth, but it is important that you also go to sleep, get ready for the next day, which is a big day, the Yawm al-Hajj al-Akbar, the biggest day of Hajj, which is the 10th of the Hajj. So you're waiting here in Muzdalifah. And then you wake up and you pray Fajr in Muzdalifah once, the time comes in. بغلس, when it is still dark, once the time comes in. You pray Fajr in Muzdalifah once the time came in, and then you proceed to al-Mash'ar al-Haram. If but Muzdalifah, you could be anywhere in Muzdalifah, but the Prophet ﷺ went to the sacred site, and someone will point it out to you. You proceed to al-Mash'ar al-Haram, and you make dhikr and dua and tahleel and takbir and hamd and so on, and all of that and that is what you have been doing in Arafah anyway. All of that, particularly, and we will come to it because we'll talk about this stuff in detail, inshallah. But then you finished all of this, and you wait in Muzdalifah up until when? You could proceed from midnight, particularly for people in the Hanbali method. You could proceed from midnight. It is preferable to wait until before sunrise. So before sunrise, not after sunrise, before sunrise. In Muzdalifah, the Prophet ﷺ proceeded to Mina. And he did this because the kuffar of Quraysh used to wait around until the sun rises. So one of the objectives of the Sharia is to disagree with evildoers. So then the Prophet ﷺ proceeded to Mina before sunrise. And when he arrived in Mina, around the time of Duha, what he started with is al-Jamarat. Now you arrive in Mina and you are starting with which Jamra? There is only one Jamra that you will stone on the 10th day of the Hajj, which is Jamrat al-Aqaba, al-Jamra al-Kubra. Al-Jamra means a heap of stones. It is symbolic of the shaitan. You're stoning the shaitan, and those 3 heaps of stones that are symbolic of the shaitan are arranged in this way. This Jamra is the closest to Mecca. This Jamra is the closest to Mecca. It's called Jamarat al-Aqaba. It's called the Jamra al-Kubra, or the major Jamra, and it is closest to Mecca, and this is the only one that you will stone on the 10th day. You will not be stoning any other Jamarat on the 10th. You will be stoning the 3 Jamarat on the 11th and 12th, and if you want, the 13th as well. But if we go back here, so you're going to, you see these 3 Jamarat? Do you see the 3 Jamarat? This one is closest to Mecca. The one that is closest to Mecca is the one that is called the Kubra, the major one, the one that you will be stoning on the 10th day of the Hajj. So after you had stoned the Jamra, the major Jamra on the 10th day of the Hajj, what are you doing next? You go to al-Manhar. You go to slaughter your sacrifice. I mean, most of the people now, you would have like purchased like a sort of like a voucher or something, and they'll slaughter on your behalf, and everything will be done on your behalf, and the money will be distributed to the people of Al-Haram, those of them that are needy, and the meat and the rest of it will be shipped out to different parts of the Muslim world. They freeze it and they ship it out to different parts of the Muslim world, which is a good thing. Don't worry about it being shipped out, because if the people in Al-Haram have no need and there is surplus, then it is only sensible that you ship the rest out to needy people outside. Anyway, so then after the sacrifice, which people that are doing tamattu and qiran will need to offer, other people who are doing hajj only will not need to offer. And poor people, so some people cannot afford this, so we prescribe for them to do hajj only. And then there is a trick for them afterwards. After they finish hajj, they can go and make their umrah afterwards. They go out to Tan'im and then they make their umrah. That could be a little bit controversial, but this has been the established practice and approved by the vast majority of the scholars. But for the people who are doing the tamattu', which is recommended by the Prophet ﷺ, and they don't mind offering the sacrifice, or if they are unable to offer the sacrifice, they're healthy enough to fast in place of offering the sacrifice, then we certainly recommend for them to do tamattu'. Okay, so we stoned the Jamra, and what did we do afterwards? We offered the sacrifice. What are we doing afterwards? We are shaving our heads. We're shaving our heads. For the sisters, they are only cutting this much of their hair, which is the tip of the finger. The tip of the finger. They only cut this much of their hair. And then after this, now you stoned and you slaughtered and you shaved. After stoning and shaving, by agreement of the four mazahib and by Muslim agreement, you come out from your first you are coming out from your strict ihram to a partial ihram. The difference between the strict ihram and the partial ihram that you will exit from, the strict ihram that you will exit from with your first tahallul, is that the first ihram has many mahzurat that we went over before, the 9 mahzurat that we went over before. We're only left with 2 out of the 9, the 2 that pertain to sort of the relationship between men and women. So no lustful contact between the 2 sexes whatsoever, and not even the marriage contract. There is a little bit of controversy about this, but the Prophet ﷺ said, فَقَدْ حَلَّ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا النِّسَاءِ. He is clear from all the mahzurat, the prohibited acts, except for women, and that applies marriage, the contract itself. So just remember that nothing related to the opposite sex still until when until you make Tawaf al-Ifada, which is the pillar Tawaf, which is the corner Tawaf, the most important Tawaf in Hajj. So after you stoned the Jamrah, and then you slaughtered your offering, and then you shaved your head, then you proceeded to where? To Mecca. To do what? To do Tawaf al-Ifada, and that is the corner of Hajj. Two things that you do not want to miss. You have to be at Arafah, at some point during the day or night of the day of Arafah. So from the Fajr of the 9th until the Fajr of the 10th, you want to be at one point, even for a second, even if you are passing through it. You want to be somewhere in Arafah on that day. Somewhere in Arafah on that day. The second thing that you never want to miss is your Tawaf al-Ifada, which is the pillar Tawaf. So on the 10th, after you had done all of those three acts, which is stoning, slaughtering, shaving, you proceeded to Mecca. And what are we talking about? The perfect Hajj. We're not talking about, because you could switch the order as much as you want. But we're talking about the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. Then you proceeded to Mecca, and then you made Tawaf al-Ifada. And then you will make Sa'i if you're doing Tamattu', and also in the other madhahib, you will make Sa'i as well after Tawaf al-Ifada anyway. So you will make your Sa'i here. That is in Qiran in the other madhahib. In the Hanafis, they will repeat their Sa'i. But in the Hanbalis, if they're doing Qiran, they are not repeating the Tawaf if they are not repeating the Sa'i if they had already done their Sa'i after Tawaf al-Qudum. That's a different issue. But let's just go over the one perfect form that we are talking about. So you will make your Tawaf, you will make your Sa'i, and after you have made your Tawaf and made your Sa'i, now you exit completely from your state of Ihram. Now you could get married as many. So you could get married. You could have the marriage contract. If you're single, you could get married. And then you go back to Mina. Then you go back to Mina because you're spending the rest of your days in Mina. So you're spending the 11th and 12th in Mina, and possibly the 13th if you want, if you desire to stay around for the 13th. But on the 11th and 12th, which you should spend in Mina, what are you doing? You must be stoning the Jamarat. You must be stoning the Jamarat. And every day you will start by, and certainly stoning the Jamarat on the day of the 10th, this can be done before Dhuhr. On the other days, 11th and 12th, it is, if you just, there is a lot of room for flexibility, and just follow whatever your guides tell you because there is a lot of room for flexibility. But in the Hanbali madhab, it only counts if you do it after Dhuhr. So you wait around until Dhuhr and you stone the Jamarat. You start by the first Jamra, the Kubra, the major Jamra, and then you proceed, you start here and then you proceed to the major. You start here, you start with the Sughra, you start with the minor one, and then you proceed. When you start here, you are going to be standing. So this is the first Jamra that you will stone. This is the Sughra, and after you stone it, you stand here, make the stone to your left hand side, face Mecca. Actually, you'll be facing this way. Just the stone will be to your right hand side, and you're just facing this way, and Mecca will be in front of you. And then you make dua. And then you proceed to the second stone and you make it on your right hand side this time. So you stone it and then you stand not here but there. So the second stone will be on your right hand side. You're facing Mecca and you're making dua. and then you proceed to the third stone, which is al-Kubra, and then you stone it, and you do what? You stand where? You don't stand. There is no standing after al-Kubra. Then you just go home. And you are repeating the same thing on the 12th. No, I have it here. You're repeating the same thing on the 12th. And you're doing the stoning on the 12th as well. Those who need to fast, they could be fasting on those 3 days, 11, 12, and 13. No fasting on the 10th. This is the day of Eid. But those who need to get a head start, it is preferable to wait until you go back home. Those who are fasting 3 and 7, it's preferable for them to wait until they go back home. If they want to get a head start on fasting, and fast Ayyam al-Tashreeq, it is permitted for them to fast Ayyam al-Tashreeq, to fast, some of the 7 days that they need to fast. It is also permitted for them, I'm sorry, not the 7 days, the 3 days that they need to fast. They are... So some people were not able to fast on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And for those people, they make up on Ayyam al-Tashreeq. Some people want to get a head start on their fasting. They do it after Ayyam al-Tashreeq. Head start on the 7th. They do it after. But even if they are still around and they had not gone back home, it is permitted for them while they are there to start the 7 days. It is preferred when they go back home because that is the exact statement of the text of the Quran. فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَامٍ فِي الْحَجِّ وَسَبْعَةٍ إِذَا رَجَعْتُمْ. Fasting 3 days for Hajj is prescribed and 7 when you go back. But they permitted it before that when you're still in the sacred precinct, as long as it's after Ayyam al-Tashreeq. So in Ayyam al-Tashreeq, which days are you fasting? You're fasting the 3 days of Hajj if you had not already fasted those days on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Fasting is prescribed for those who will not be able to offer a sacrifice. So if you're able financially to offer a sacrifice, don't worry about fasting. So this is basically the entire thing. And now that you had finished you had finished the 11th and 12th, your stoning of the Jamarat. Number 7, you're going back to Mecca. You're going to make Tawaf al-Wada', which is the farewell pilgrimage, and then you're going home. Is that clear? Okay, now we'll go over it in some detail. Okay, so this is basically a repetition. So this is Mecca, this is Mina, this is Muzdalifah, this is Arafah. On the 8th, you're going from Mecca to Mina. You're going to spend your day, the 8th in Mina, and the Fajr of the 9th as well. And then number 2, after, before Dhuhr, between Ishraq and Dhuhr, you proceed from Mina to Arafah, and you arrive in Arafah and pray Dhuhr and Asr combined with the Imam, and then you proceed to stand at the somewhere in Arafah. The Prophet ﷺ stood by the Mount Jabal al-Rahmah, the Mount of Mercy, and we explained this. But then after sunset in Arafah, you're going back to where? Muzdalifah. This is Muzdalifah here. You're going to Muzdalifah and you're going to pray Maghrib and Isha combined in Muzdalifah, and then you're going to rest until Fajr. You'll pray Fajr. You'll proceed to al-Mash'ar al-Haram, and at al-Mash'ar al-Haram you will supplicate and make tahleel and hamd and takbir and so on until before sunrise. And right before sunrise, before sunrise. Then you proceed to, where are you going? You're going to Mina. And this is the 10th day. You arrive here from Muzdalifah. You stone the first Jamra, the biggest Jamra, the major Jamra, which is Jamarat al-Aqaba. And you slaughter, offer your sacrifice. You shave your head. And then you exit from your strict ihram to your partial ihram. And that's number 4. Number 5, you're going from Mina to Mecca to make Tawaf al-Ifada. And then you exit from your ihram completely. And after Tawaf al-Ifada, you're going back to Mina to spend the 11th and 12th, and if you want, the 13th, and stone the 3 Jamarat every single day while you are in Mina. Number 7, and the last step, you're going back to Mecca to do your Tawaf al-Wada' or the farewell pilgrimage. We went over these chapters before, and we talked about the ihram sites, and we talked about what else? We talked about, mahzurat al-ihram, the forbidden acts in ihram, and so on. But this is just the 3 different types of Hajj that people make: Tamattu', Ifrad, and Qiran. Tamattu' means Umrah, then Hajj, separated by a period of being, of tahallul, of being able to wear your clothes and do everything you want in Mecca. Ifrad is to single out Hajj, meaning you're coming only for Hajj. There is no Umrah involved. I told you after you finish Hajj, they'd allow you to make Umrah and so on. Qiran is where you combine the Hajj and Umrah. You're not doing any more than Ifrad, but you're intending to do Hajj and Umrah. The difference between Qiran and Ifrad is that for Qiran, you will sacrifice because you got to enjoy or to reap the benefits of combining Hajj and Umrah on the same trip, so you offer a sacrifice in this case. Here, Tamattu', you will enter the first ihram. Ifrad and Qiran, you will enter once you arrive in Mecca. If you are making Tamattu', you will enter your first ihram. Ifrad and Qiran, you will make your first and only ihram, because you are not going to come out until you finish everything. For Tamattu', after you had made your first ihram, keep in mind, you're making the first ihram where? At the miqat, at the ihram site. You're keeping it while you are in Mecca. Here, you perform your umrah and exit from your first ihram. So you do your tawaf, you do your sa'i, you cut your hair, you don't shave it, keep it for Hajj. You cut your hair, trim it a little bit, and then you come out from your state of ihram. You could have come to Mecca for this in Shawwal, because Shawwal is one of the months of Hajj. You come to Mecca, you make your umrah in Shawwal, and you wait around in Mecca for 2 months. You're waiting around in Mecca, in your normal state without ihram. And then, but for the people who are making Ifrad and Qiran, they perform Tawaf al-Qudum. They may perform Sa'i now instead of on the 10th after Tawaf al-Ifada. So you may make Sa'i now, or you may defer it to the 10th after Tawaf al-Ifada. If you want, for the Hanafis, you will repeat the Sa'i. So this is for the Hanbalis. They make one Sa'i only. They either make it now or they make it after Tawaf al-Ifada. 8th of Dhul Hijjah. On the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, if you were making Tamattu', you need now to get back into your state of Ihram, and you will do that from Mecca itself. Okay? If you were but the rest of the people did not exit from their state of Ihram, so they don't need to worry about putting their Ihram back on. They already are in their Ihram, if they were doing Ifrad or Qiran. Now, 8th, 9th, and 10th, all do the same acts of worship up until the stoning of the Jamratul Aqaba. Everybody is doing the same thing, whether you're doing Tamattu', Ifrad, and Qiran. Now, after you had stoned the Jamratul Aqaba, the people who were making Tamattu' and the people who were making Qiran, they will need to sacrifice. They will need to offer their sacrifice. The people who were making Ifrad, they don't need to sacrifice. They go right ahead and shave their, right ahead to shaving. But for the people who are making Tamattu' and making Qiran, they stoned the Jamrat al-Aqaba, then they sacrificed, then they shaved their head. And we're talking about the perfect Hajj, we're not talking about what we must do. But for the people who are making Tamattu' and Qiran, they must do the three things. The order is what doesn't matter, but they must do the three things. They need to stone, they need to sacrifice, they need to shave. Then everybody on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, all three Hujjat proceed, different types of Hujjat proceed to Al-Haram to perform Tawaf al-Ifadah. Then for the people who are making Tamattu', there is mandatory Sa'i. For the people who are making Ifrad or Qiran, if they made their Sa'i already, they don't need to repeat it. If they made their Sa'i with Tawaf al-Qudum, the first Tawaf, the Tawaf of arrival, they don't need to repeat it. Now all have exited from their Ihram, which is the second Tahallul after Tawaf al-Ifadah, which is the Pillar Tawaf. After stoning and shaving, by the agreement of Muslim scholars, you exit from your first state of Ihram. And then if you add to this Tawaf and Sa'i, by agreement of Muslim scholars, you exit from your second, from your Ihram completely. You exit from your Ihram completely. Okay, so this is the chapter that we are starting with today. This was just like a summary. Now, the details. Okay, I'm not going to repeat this slide. باب دخول مكة. Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah ta'ala said, يستحب أن يدخل مكة من أعلاها. It is preferable to enter Mecca from the northern side. Don't worry about this stuff. No one will allow you to make any of those choices. But the northern side of Mecca is, if you're coming from Medina, you're going to come from the northern side, and it is called Kada. And the southern side is called Quda. So when the Prophet ﷺ entered Mecca, he entered from the northern side, which is the northern heights, and the Thaniya, al-Uliya, and the northern heights. And then the southern heights, that's when he exited from Mecca. And I told you the purpose that he used to use different routes before. And then, Bani Shayba. Oh, it's wrong. So you enter from Kada, from the northern side, you exit from Quda, the southern side, but you will follow whatever group you are in. Then ويدخل المسجد من باب بني شيبة لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم دخل منه. And he enters the masjid from the gate of Bani Shayba, since the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم entered from there. And here is the gate of Bani Shayba. This is Al-Marwa. This is As-Safa. This is the masjid. This is the gate of Bani Shayba. You could ask about it. For those people who were particularly, like Ibn Umar types, they can just, if they want, they can do this. For the rest of the people, you'll just follow the group. And the rest of the people don't feel bad, don't feel inferior or anything, because, not everybody was Ibn Umar, even among the Sahaba. So the Prophet ﷺ entered from the gate of Bani Shayba, and that would be certainly preferable to follow the Sunnah exactly. Now, then, once you have entered, فإذا رأى البيت رفع يديه وكبر الله وحمده ودعا. Once he sees the house, he raises his hands, he says Allahu Akbar, he praises Allah and he supplicates. Once you see the bayt, you raise your hands, you say Allahu Akbar, you praise Allah and you supplicate. Raising the hands has been reported from the Prophet and Ibn Abbas. Has not been traceable authentically to the Prophet, but it is traceable to Ibn Abbas. Saying Allahu Akbar has been reported from the Sahaba as well, and it has been reported from the Prophet ﷺ through a mursal meaning the Sahabi was skipped. It is the Tabi'i reporting directly from the Prophet ﷺ without mentioning that he heard it from one of the Sahaba. If he mentioned that he heard it from one of the Sahaba, but he did not name the Sahabi, that is still authentic, no problem, because it doesn't matter which Sahabi. Sahaba are all udul, are all trustworthy. But if the Tabi'i reports from the Prophet ﷺ and skips the narrator completely, then that's called mursal. So anyway, and then you supplicate. Supplicate, you say what Umar radiallahu anhu said, Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam fahayyina bis salam. Oh Allah, you are peace and from you comes peace, so make us live in peace. Oh Allah, you are peace and from you comes peace, so make us live in peace. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam fahayyina rabbana bis salam. Fahayyina rabbana bis salam. So O our Lord, make us live in peace. And the Prophet, it has been reported from the Prophet through a weak chain, a very weak chain, that he said, Allahumma zid hadha al-bayta ta'ziman wa tashrifan wa mahaba wa zid man hajjahu aw i'tamarahu ta'ziman wa tashrifan wa takbiran wa birra. Oh Allah, increase this bayt, increase this house in glory and honor and reverence. Glory, honor, and reverence. And increase those who come to it for Hajj or Umrah in glory, honor, status, and righteousness. Status and righteousness. So keep in mind, the fuqaha have been lenient with ad'iyah, azkar, and supplications and azkar. The fuqaha have been lenient. They have accepted them from the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and they have accepted them through weak chains from the Prophet ﷺ, as long as two things. One, the meaning is sound. The meaning of the dua is sound. It's not counter to any principles in Islam. Or the dhikr, the meaning of the dhikr is sound. Two, you don't attribute it to the Prophet ﷺ if it is not traceable to him. You don't assertively attribute it if it comes from a weak chain, and you don't attribute it at all if it comes from a Sahabi or a Tabi'i. But you could still use those du'as because the Sahaba radwanullahi alayhim were wiser than us and more educated than us, so their du'as would be better than whatever du'as we make up. That does not mean, however, that you could not make up your own dua, because you could make up your own dua and make as much dua as you want, in whatever language, whatever form, whatever request that you have from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is your time to make your dua. Freestyle dua is permissible all the way. Yet the du'as of the Quran, they're the best, and they're the most perfect du'as. So if you use ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا متقين إماما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذرياتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب رب زدني علما رب توفني مسلما والحقني بالصالحين. And all of those beautiful Quranic du'as, they are certainly better. But then afterwards you could make whichever dua you want. So, and then you raise your hands, you make your takbir, you make your dua. All of this, you do not want to forget when you enter into the masjid, the supplication of entering into the masjid as well. This has been prescribed by many. There is nothing to say that you do not also make the supplication of entering the masjid when you enter the Masjid al-Haram. And that applies to all the masajid, therefore it also applies to the Masjid al-Haram. The first tawaf. Now you enter the masjid, The first tawaf that you will be making, which tawaf is this? You're making tamattu. try to make tamattu. Everybody try to make tamattu, which is Umrah and then Hajj, separated by a period of tahallul. Which tawaf is this? This is Tawaf al-Qudum. This is the tawaf of arrival. And at the same time, it is Tawaf al-Umrah. This is called Tawaf al-Umrah. You know, if you were not making Umrah, this will only be Tawaf al-Qudum for you, Tawaf of arrival, and will not count as the Tawaf al-Umrah. Okay, so then he said, ثم يبتدئ بطواف العمرة إن كان معتمرا أو بطواف القدوم إن كان مفردا أو قارنا. And then he starts with the circumambulation of the Umrah, if doing Umrah, or that of arrival, Tawaf al-Qudum, if he was performing Ifrad or Qiran, Hajj and Umrah simultaneously. So this Tawaf, there are 7 conditions for your Tawaf to be valid, according to the Hanbali Madhab. In the Hanafi Madhab, they do not consider purity to be a condition of validity. But according to the Hanbali Madhab, they consider purity to be, that is physical and ritual purity, to be a condition of validity. The 7 conditions are just like the conditions of Salah, because the Prophet even said that Tawaf is Salah except that Allah permitted talking in it. Tawaf is Salah except that Allah permitted talking in it. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said. So according to the Hanbalis, and try to remember the conditions of the Hanbalis, because the Hanafis will not consider purity to be a bad thing. They consider it to be a great thing, but they will not consider it a condition of validity. So if you're trying to do your perfect Hajj, try to remember the 7 conditions of the Hanbalis. 6 of them are just like the Salah. What are the 6 conditions of validity of the Salah? Niyyah, intention, commencement of time. You know, this does not apply except to Tawaf al-Ifadah. Tawaf al-Ifadah has to be done after the midnight of, so Tawaf al-Ifadah is done on the 10th, after the midnight of the eve of the 10th. After midnight of the eve of the 10th. But then it is preferable, certainly, that you wait around and you do it after you stone the Jamarat, and you wait around and you do it after the Duha of the 10th. But for the particularly weak and particularly sick and those people, they can do it earlier. That is Tawaf al-Ifadah. So commencement of time applies only to Tawaf al-Ifadah. But for Tawaf al-Umrah or Qudum, the time for this Tawaf is once you arrive into Mecca. That's it. Okay, so now we have the intention. We have the commencement of time. What is the other condition of validity in Salah? Tastaqbil al-Qibla, to face the Qibla. Switch this around a little bit, because you're there. You're not facing the Kaaba when you're making Tawaf. But switch this a little bit, and the condition of validity that takes the place of this one is what? To do the Tawaf anti-clockwise. Anti-clockwise, meaning that the Kaaba will be to your left-hand side when you're making your Tawaf. It will be, everybody, it will be so hard to do it otherwise. You may not be able to come back. But so you're doing it anti-clockwise. The Kaaba is on your left-hand side. And you're starting from where? You're starting from al-Hajar al-Aswad, or parallel to al-Hajar al-Aswad. There is a line on the ground that you will start at that is parallel to al-Hajar al-Aswad. So that's the 3rd condition. The 4th condition for Tawaf, according to the Hanbalis, is al-Tahara min al-Hadath. 5th is Tahara min al-Najas. 4th is ritual purity, to have wudu, to be in a state of wudu. So the 5th is what? At-Tahara min al-Najas, to have no physical impurity on your body. To have no physical impurity on your body. And the 6th is what? Satrul Awra, to cover your nakedness. This is also applicable here in Tawaf according to the Hanbalis. It is a condition of validity that you cover your nakedness. Now, what is the 7th condition that is not applicable to the prayer, but it is only applicable to Tawaf, is that you do it 7 times. Is that you do it 7 times. Is that clear? 7 conditions for your Tawaf to be valid. Now, فيطبع بردائه فيجعل وسطه تحت عاتقه الأيمن وطرفيه على عاتقه الأيسر. So he makes ittiba' with his upper garment and puts the middle of it underneath his right shoulder and the two ends over his left shoulder. This guy is making ittaba'. This guy is putting the ihram the regular way. This is how you're going to be looking. This is how you're going to be looking for the entire Hajj. This is how you're going to be looking only in the first tawaf. Only in the first tawaf. Only in the first tawaf, according to which madhab? According to the Hanbalis and the Shafi'is. The Malikis, they don't have this at all. They are always like this. The Hanafis, they do this with every tawaf that is followed by a sa'i. The Hanafis, you'll find them doing this. So why are we saying this? Well, the beauty of doing a little bit of comparative fiqh is that you sort of acquaint yourself with different positions so that you're not surprised. You just don't get surprised when people are doing things that are different. Don't get particularly surprised or shocked. So the Hanafis, you'll find them doing this in Tawaf al-Ifada, for instance. Because every tawaf for the Hanafis that is followed by a sa'i, you do ittaba' in every tawaf that is followed by a sa'i. Going back to the Hanbalis, you're doing this ittaba' only in the first tawaf, which is the tawaf of arrival or tawaf of al-Umrah, the first tawaf. Afterwards, you're not doing ittaba'. You're going to be looking like this for the rest of your Hajj. For the Hanafis, they are looking like this for the rest of their Hajj, except in the tawafs that they will make that will be followed by sa'i, then they will uncover the right shoulder. You bring your garment like this, and you throw one end on your left shoulder, and the other end also on the left shoulder, on top of it. And that is what is called ittaba', uncovering your right shoulder. Okay. Then Imam Qudamah rahimahullah said, وَيَبْدَأْ بِالْحَجَرِ الْأَسْوَدِ فَيَسْتَلِمُهُ وَيُقَبِّلُهُ وَيَقُولُ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ أَكْبَرُ اللهم إيمانا بك وتصديقا بكتابك ووفاء بعهدك واتباعا لسنة نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he starts at the black stone and places his hand on it and kisses it and says Bismillah and Allahu Akbar, Allah, O Allah, out of faith in you and to show belief in your book, fulfill your covenant and follow the sunnah of your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Okay, so you will go there to al-Hajar al-Aswad. Now pretend, we're going to pretend. You're going there to al-Hajar al-Aswad to start your tawaf, and you put your hand on al-Hajar al-Aswad and you kiss your Hajar al-Aswad, and then you start your tawaf from this point. Keep in mind, because I mentioned this is the buttress. The buttress is the shadharwan, the buttress of the Kaaba. If you step on this, your tawaf is not valid. This is part of the Kaaba. If you take one step on this and the other step on the ground, that round is not valid. Or if you completely missed it, it is not valid. Otherwise, if you step on it, take a step back and proceed. Take a step back and proceed. Because this is considered inside the Kaaba. So if you step on it, you're not making tawaf around the Kaaba because it's considered part of the inside. For sure, this is inside the Kaaba. If you take a shortcut here, your tawaf is not valid. People who like shortcuts, that's everybody. But you have to make tawaf around Hijr Ismail because the Hijr was part of the Kaaba, except that Quraysh did not have enough money to build the Kaaba the way it used to be during the time of Ibrahim. So they cut corners and they sort of identified the rest by making this Hijr. So you have to make the tawaf around the Hijr Ismail and not make shortcut here. Saying Bismillah is reported from the Sahaba, from Ibn Umar, Allahu Akbar, from the Prophet ﷺ. The rest of the dua has not been authentically reported. So, is it okay? Yes, the fuqaha has been lenient. You could make whichever dua you want, and a dua that had come down to us from the righteous predecessors may be superior to the dua that we make up. However, we can make up whichever dua we want. Now, This is the structure of the Kaaba here. Starting with number one. Number one is the black stone. Number one is the black stone. This is where you will start your tawaf. Number two, where is number two? Number two is the door of the Kaaba. This is the door of the Kaaba. Number three is al-Mizab, the rain spout. The rain spout. Number four is the buttress, the Shazarwan. The buttress, the Shazarwan of the Kaaba. Don't step on it. Number five, where is number five? Hijr Ismail. Don't walk through it. Afterwards, after your tawaf, you want to stay there, stand inside Hijr Ismail because you will be inside the Kaaba. Do it as much as you want. I mean, if you can get into it, you'll find people fighting there. But if you can, then do it. It will be easier in Umrah. So if you go to Umrah on some other time, it will be easier for you to do those things. Anyway, then number six is what? Al-Multazam. Where is it? Here, Al-Multazam. Al-Multazam because you taltazimu. Taltazimu means you hug it. So you hug the Multazam, which is between the corner and the door, the black stone and the door. Number seven, Maqam Ibrahim, the station of Ibrahim. The station of Ibrahim that you will go and pray 2 rak'ahs after you finish your tawaf. You pray 2 rak'ahs here. You put the station of Ibrahim between you and the Kaaba and you pray 2 rak'ahs here, if you can. Number eight. Where is number eight? Number eight is, this is the Rukn of al-Hajar. This is called the Rukn al-Hajar, or the pillar of al-Hajar. The Kaaba has 4 pillars, 2 that are called Yamani. Number 9 is the Yamani corner, or the Yamani corner. But both of them are called the Ruknayn al-Yamaniyayn. Both of them are called the Yamani corners because they are on the southern side. They're facing Yemen. This one, number 11, is facing Iraq. This one, number 10, is facing Sham. So this is called al-Iraqi, this is called the Shami. These are the 4 corners of al-Kaaba. The ones that are more honored, the ones, and we will come to discussing some details about what we will do by the 2 corners, the pillars of al-Kaaba, the 2 Yemeni pillars of al-Kaaba. The ones that are more honored are these Yemeni corners, not because of favoritism towards Yemen, because Sham also is a blessed land, but because these Yemeni corners are the original ones. These Shami and Iraqi corners are not the original pillars. They are not the pillars that Ibrahim built. They are the pillars that Quraysh built because they did not have enough money to build the Kaaba the way Ibrahim built it. Had they built the Iraqi corner here and the Shami corner here, this would have been a rectangular Kaaba, but they did not. So anyway, yeah. So what did I want to say? That's it, I guess. So this brown line here at number 12 is the cover of the Kaaba. This brown line here is where you will put your feet to start your tawaf. You put your feet on that brown line or before it. You don't have to put your feet on the brown line, but make sure that you don't put your feet after when you start your tawaf, the brown line is not behind your back, it is in front of you, or you're standing on the brown line. And it would be preferable that you stand on the brown line because you will be, hazwa al-rukn, you will be just on parallel to the rukn. Okay. ثم يأخذ عن يمينه ويجعل البيت عن يساره فيطوف 7 يرمل في الثلاثة الأول من الحجر إلى الحجر من الحجر إلى الحجر not from الحجر إلى الحجر من الحجر إلى الحجر from the stone to the stone ويمشي في الأربعة الأخر and then he moves to his right and keeps the Kaaba on his left and circumambulates 7 times making ramal, brisk walking, short steps in the first 3 rounds with each round starting and ending from the stone, and he walks in the last 4 rounds. So basically you make the 7 tawafs here, you're making the 7 tawafs, okay? The first 3 tawafs here are brisk walking. The first 3 are brisk walking. The last 4, you walk normal. You walk normal. But the first 3 tawafs, for men, Attire, which is uncovering the right shoulder, and Ramal, both come together. It's one package, except for the Malikis. But for the rest of us, it is one package. You're doing Attire and Ramal the same. In the tawaf that you will do Ramal in, you'll do Attire in. The tawaf that you will not do Ramal in, you will not do Attire in. And that's not for the Malikis, but for the Hanafis, Shafi'is, and Hanbalis. And then they disagree over which tawaf you will do Attire and Ramal. And I told you, for the Hanafis, you're doing Attire and covering the right shoulder and Ramal, brisk walking in the first 3 rounds. You're doing them when? With every tawaf that will be followed by a Sa'i. For the Hanbalis, you're doing it only in Tawaf al-Umrah or Tawaf al-Qudum, which is the first tawaf. Okay, is that clear? Ramal and Attire come together. The only difference between Ramal and Attire is what? Is that Ramal is in the first 3 rounds, Attire is in the 7 rounds. Ramal is in the first 3 rounds only. Attire is in all 7 rounds. That is by agreement, okay? And then it says here, وَكُلَّمَا حَذَا الرُّكْنَ الْيَمَانِ وَالْحَجَرْ اسْتَلَمَهُمَا وَكَبَّرَ وَهَلَّلْ. Whenever he is in line with the Yemeni corner of the Yemeni corner or the stone, he places his hand on them and says Allahu Akbar and makes tahleel, saying La ilaha illallah. Okay, so whenever you come next to a Rukn al-Yamani, if you can touch a Rukn al-Yamani, touch it. If you cannot touch a Rukn al-Yamani, whenever you come next to al-Hajar, what do you do? If you can touch it and kiss it and do everything, do it. But if you can't, then you point to it from a distance. You point to it from a distance. Does this apply to a Rukn al-Yamani? In the Hanbali madhab, it applies. Not the kissing. You touch it if you're close. This is Rukn al-Yamani here. This is Rukn al-Yamani. You touch it if you're close, and you point to it if you're far. Hanbali wise. Is there any proof that you point to it if you're far? No, there is not, to be honest. But Hanbalis consider this to be also recommended, to point to al-Yamani corner if you are far. Okay. Then what are you going to be saying between the two Yemeni? Once you get to the Yemeni corner, and you pass the Yemeni corner, now you're between the Yemeni corner and the corner of the black stone. Then you will say this, and this is established from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. O our Lord, grant us good in this world and good in the hereafter, and protect us from the torment of the fire. Then he says what? وَيَدْعُو فِي سَائِرِهِ بِمَا أَحَبَّ, and makes any supplication he wishes in the rest. This is the only thing that is traceable to the Prophet ﷺ in terms of dua. If you want to use any help, any cheat sheet or anything to make your dua, that is fine. But recognize that this is the only thing that is traceable to the Prophet. This is the only thing that is part of our deen. This is the only thing that is sunnah, is this dua. Otherwise, you could make up your own dua, or you could use cheat sheets if you want. But if you make it spontaneous, I think it is better. It's sweeter to make it spontaneous. To try to remember some of the ad'iyah of the Quran and make up your own du'as and stuff and make it spontaneous. Instead of walking around holding that manifesto in your hand, and you can trip and fall and hurt yourself. So just if you make it spontaneous, that would be better. Okay. ثم يصلي ركعتين خلف المقام ويعود إلى الركن فيستلم. Then after you finished your 7 tawafs, and then pray 2 rak'ahs behind the station of Ibrahim, you pray 2 rak'ahs here, and then he returns to the corner, the black stone, and places his hand on it. Most of the stuff you're not going to be able to do. But anyway, praying those 2 rak'ahs, you could pray them anywhere in the masjid. Pray them anywhere. If you can pray them somewhere here, like, as close as possible to Maqam Ibrahim, that may not be a bad idea. But you could pray them anywhere in the masjid. If you can't pray them, if you can't make the maqam between you and the Kaaba. This is the maqam, and this is Rukn. This is according to the Hanbali madhab when it comes to Ramal and Ittiba', but we're done with this. So let's take a break for a little while and then come back and try to finish this. This is getting out of hand. Yes.